And we are live. It is the Café Hangout. I am John Pollock, along with Wai Ting. Thank you to all who are joining us here in the post office. Big show coming up. We are going to be going through all the news that is happening in the world of professional wrestling and mixed martial arts. We're going to go through some of the cards that are going down this weekend. But our primary topic today, in addition to all you great callers that we're going to be getting to, the WWE's financials, the first quarter earnings report. And it's now becoming an unofficial tradition here on the Cafe Hangout that when the financials drop, we put out the Brandon signal. And joining us, a man who is going on very little sleep today. He is today's post-wrestling MVP, Brandon Howard, fresh off an appearance for Beyond Wrestling on their program last night. Uncharted territory. He is now joining us here on the Post Wrestling Cafe as he gets to play financial analyst. Brandon, it is always great to have you here.
Hey, John and Wai, it's great to be here. Yes, I just got back from like a 6.5 hour car ride. Got home like 7:30 a.m., something like that. I got like 2 hours of sleep, and then I had to wake up because the documents drop at 9 a.m. Eastern. So I read some of those, tweeted quite a bit. And then by the time I was done with that, the conference call had started at 11. And so I'm here and I'm caffeinated. And but the Beyond show was a ton of fun. I got to wrestle Jay Freddy, and people seemed to like the match a lot. So that was
I saw a lot of great feedback to the match. And yeah, it's really good. It's a side topic, but I think that Beyond Wrestling, I mean, they're a really interesting company and how they've been able to utilize their YouTube content to tremendous success and now parlaying it into this weekly show on Wednesday nights. I think that it's certainly has a lot of buzz right now.
Yeah, like I've been in touch with the promoter of Beyond, Drew Cordiero, for a while. I'd never really wrestled. I've done like one small show for him years ago, but he's done a lot too. Like I think they're at 1.5 million YouTube subscribers, which is like more than Ring of Honor. So he's worked really hard to get out there on social media and to use YouTube. And it's super ambitious to do a live independent wrestling show every week. I had some people asking me, like, is this like a TV taping? Are they doing like multiple episodes and then airing them? No, this is every week live. They do 2 hours or a little over 2 hours.
So shifting gears now over to the WWE's earnings report. We're talking to you at 3 p.m. Eastern time. The WWE stock has taken a pretty significant hit today. I imagine that it will rebound to a degree, but it's trading at just under $86 right now. I guess if you were to explain today's earnings report, what your expectations were and what the actual results were. Did they differ?
This was below my expectations. This was not a good day for WWE stock. The last I looked at it, just before I got on the phone with you guys, it's down 12.8% on the day. The stock price is. We saw the sort of a theme that I've found over the last few months here. I did an article a few months ago about W popularity and looked at 7 different metrics and to see, is there preponderance of WWE's popularity decreasing? And I found that there is, even though WWE is really financially stable because of the big TV rights deals that they've got. But we saw they actually gave us a W Network subscriber number for the day after WrestleMania. And then that number was down from the previous WrestleMania. And if anybody's been following W business over the last few years, especially since the network's been launched, they would take every Monday morning after WrestleMania and say, here's what the network number is, because that would be the peak for the year, right? Mm-hmm. And with the last earnings report last quarter, they said, hey, because the network is so successful now, we're not going to do that anymore. And as it turned out, that number was down. So maybe they saw that coming and figured, you don't want to deliver disappointing news.
Yeah. So to throw that number out, the day after WrestleMania this year, they had 2 million total subscribers, which is down 6% from their all-time high that they had last year, the day after WrestleMania. Paid subscribers was down 2%. But on the free category, you were down 26% who had at least signed up for the free option last year, which, I mean, when you look at that number, free subs being down so much, I wouldn't be as concerned if the paid number, like these had turned into paying subscribers, but that doesn't seem to be the case either. And it's kind of an interesting drop to see, Brandon, when you're looking at raw viewership being down by a similar degree year over year. And this year, it just seemed like WrestleMania, there was a slight decline in popularity from last year's show.
Yeah, I think like when it comes to the network, you can look at this like under the best case scenario is just that this was a new media, this is a new business, and maybe it's just that we've saturated the market, and this market is sort of fully matured. Even though I bet if I did some research and looked into Netflix subscribers, even just in the U.S., I bet they might still be increasing. But certainly, I think worldwide they are. But like a worst case scenario.
Hello, Brandon. We may have to reconnect.
To support that.
Oh, he's back. Oh, there you go. Hey,
Am I still here?
Yeah, we just had a bit of a connection hiccup there. Could you just repeat your thought?
I think like in a best case scenario, it looks like this was a new business, the WWE Network. You had to get a lot of people to get streaming devices just to sign up for this thing, and under a best case scenario, it's just that the market is matured for the product, or under a worst case scenario, like this product in general, or WrestleMania itself just wasn't as interesting as it was last year to people. And I think there's a preponderance of evidence that would support that WWE has not been as popular this year as it has been for the last couple of years. And you can see that too in the news we got today for live events, with average attendance being down, the revenue for live events being down, the operating income, which is a way to measure profit, they lost $200,000 in operating income on the live event segment. Merchandise sales were down. Online sales through W Shop and other sources were down 20%. Their venue merch sales at the venues were down 17%. And even the AVOD, the ad-supported video on demand on places like YouTube, for the first time since 2016, that stuff was down. The hours viewed were down 15% quarter over quarter. The views were down 9% quarter over quarter, which has sort of been something that they could lean on. YouTube doesn't make a ton of money for them. They are one of the most popular channels on YouTube, and it makes some money for them, but certainly very little compared to what they make on TV. But it's been something they could lean on and say, hey, look, this is still becoming more and more popular, and these metrics are growing. Well, they didn't grow this quarter. They were down significantly.
Seems like the corporate line coming out of this for pitting a lot of these decreases is a sudden increase in superstar absences, which Vince says some 15 talent were out. Talk about how much you consider this to be a valid reason.
I don't. He said, so I give him credit for like bringing it up, and that's the first thing that they really talked about on the conference call, or at least one of the first things. He said this was a very unusual situation, and I really question like how unusual this is. I think I need to sit down and like try to do some research on it. It's tough to gather data on injuries. It's not like there's a cage match out there that's tracking everyone's injuries. But he said some 15 talent were absent, both mid card and top level. We had Rollins out, and go ahead.
No, before you continue, I'm getting a bit of rustling on your phone there, Brandon. So I don't know if like the microphone's being perhaps touched a little bit. If you don't mind, just
sure,
try to stay as perfectly still as you can, I would say, for the duration of this. But yeah, please continue.
We'll do. So Rollins was out, and I think Becky was out. This is for part of Q1. Dolph Ziggler was out. Alexa Bliss had been out for part of it. Roman Reigns out for part of it. Braun Strowman, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton. So, but I really wonder, is that much different than other times? I think there are other times, like in 2016, leading up to WrestleMania 32, where there were a lot of talent injured or absent. And I don't know that we had the same problems with attendance and with venue merchandise sales and with viewership then.
It just seemed that, there was an overall tone on this call that as soft as some of the different areas performed this quarter, and we're kind of not looking at this as any kind of long-term issue, because ultimately it comes down to these TV deals at the end of the year, and we're going to hit our forecast. And it just seems everything is geared towards the end of the year when they go into these new contracts.
Vince even put it over. He said that when top talent was out, we made new talent, and we're hiring new people for the writing team that are going to help us out. We've got a new team for live events. And if you remember a couple of quarterly conference calls a little while ago, he said that live events were going to be reimagined. And here we've got another quarter where it looks like live events are losing money. But he talks about how like in Q4 they're going to begin these new TV deals with Fox. So SmackDown is going to go on Fox, and USA is.
I have faith he's still there. There we go.
Am I still here?
You're still here. You just had another random cutout just briefly there. So let's hope that you stay on. I think it's just telling us we have a bit of a poor connection. If we break off again, maybe we'll just take a quick break and we'll call you on a landline. But for now, if you don't mind just repeating your thought there, Brandon.
Sure. So Vince talked about how he's got a new people on the writing team. They've got a new team for live events, and it's going to be a whole new beginning this time. And I think a few quarterly conference calls ago, he talked about how they were going to reimagine the live events business, because I think that was Q3 2018 when the live events business had lost money also. So in Q4, starting in October, Fox is going to start airing SmackDown, and USA Network is going to be in effect with their new deal for Raw. So Vince talked about how there's going to be these new promotional opportunities, and it's going to be a whole new kickoff. But I don't know. And again, I don't know that it's any different than at any other point in time. Like when 2016, I think there was a lot of talent out then, and things were okay then. We weren't seeing the sort of deficits and discrepancies like we are now.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sort of it sort of looks to me like a company that is not really able to fairly evaluate their vision for creating stars and for telling stories.
That's what I thought was kind of glaring to me, was just no real mention of storytelling and maybe critical negativity as it regards to just the types of programs that they're telling. And some of the criticisms I often hear doing this show is just the length of the programs and really wearing a lot of people out. Was there any talk of any of that?
There was no talk about how WrestleMania was 7.5 hours long. No. So one analyst named Laura Martin asked about how long it takes to create these new stars. We have Roman Reigns out, he had a cancer scare, and we've got John Cena, not as much part of the company as he used to be. She was sort of getting at that, and how long does it take to create a new star? And the financial analysts are not necessarily wrestling fans, right? So Vince took that question and he just sort of kicked it off to Triple H, to Paul Levesque, who every once in a while shows up at these conference calls, and he ends up talking. And Triple H just talked about how we don't just bring in superstars, we create them.
The line of the call.
When we have absence, right? Which sort of like there's AJ Styles. You sort of just took him and didn't put him on NXT. You just put him right out there. But he said, when we have absences, we have new talent to step in, and that Kofi Kingston is an example of that. And he sort of just went into his NXT talking points about how 80% of the talent that we have in the main roster went through our talent development system. And we have a 30-year track record in creating stars, so we're confident in that. So there doesn't seem to be, a lot of reflection on, are we doing the right thing to create stars? Are we telling stories in the right way? And again, I don't think that financial analysts and the people who are, reacting on the stock market are like hardcore internet wrestling fans, like maybe we are. And I don't know that they're evaluating, Raw and SmackDown and the major pay-per-views like a lot of people are. But I almost couldn't, help but wonder, how could you not listen to this and think that there's, that the people in charge of this company are not insulated in some way?
Well, and there's always those topics, Brandon, that we don't expect to be able to pierce the bubble and get out to the investment community. But what I did find curious was that nothing regarding Last Week Tonight was brought up, and just from a simple economic standpoint, that if you were to, and you did a fantastic study on this, what the cost would be to convert them over to employees, that was not brought up. And I was somewhat surprised by that, because that's the kind of piece that certainly does go outside of the wrestling bubble and reaches investors.
And I think that's a very newsworthy story. And I think it's great that John Oliver covered that, and that issue of the independent contractor employee issue was brought to a higher profile than it's ever been brought before in the wrestling business. But I guess when you think about it, from an economic standpoint, from people who are analyzing the stock and who have an incentive to want to see the stock do better, converting your independent contractors to employees, which is going to cost $2 million, something you want to bring up and drive a conversation around, I guess.
And just for those that maybe have not read your study, you spoke to a lot of people, and I mean, you said you were going on the high end of what it would cost, but can you just give us a bit of that information of if they were to turn their 215 people under contract from independent contractors, the cost might surprise people.
Right. So they have 215 talent under contract according to the latest annual report. And I estimated, I was trying to be really aggressive and say at the most what would it cost them. And I got to about $28.5 million when you include things like the travel expenses and the health insurance that they would have to provide to them, the tax contributions and things like that. So about $28 million. But their profit margins are well in excess of $28 million. And because of the new TV deals that are going to go into effect at the end of this year and that are going to be there for at least 5 years, The fees that they get for those are escalating fees that are guaranteed. So each fee is a little bit higher than the last. So the company's going to be getting more and more revenue each year for like at least the next 5 years, and they're probably going to become more and more profitable for the next 5 years. I think their adjusted OIBDA, which is a way of measuring profit, their OIBDA goal for this year is like $200 million. So that's well in excess of $28 million. So I think they ultimately, the point is, the thing to think about is like WWE could really afford this. They could totally afford to convert their employees or convert their wrestlers to employees and provide them with health insurance and retirement benefits and things like that, and pay their taxes for them and their travel for them. But I think doing that would lower the WWE's company profit margins, and then they would end up, the stock price would be lower. That would the executives, the stock price, the shares that they hold would be less valuable. And when they make their sales for their stock options, they would be making less money. And you can see Vince McMahon selling a handful of shares every now and then to fund the XFL. Those shares, the sales that he would be able to make, the money he would be able to get to do stuff like that would be less if the stock price was lower and if the profit projections were lower.
It does not feel like the public pressure to make a move like that is strong enough right now.
I don't think there's any pressure. I think this segment, it aired. There was discussion about it for a week tops, and it's totally been dropped. There's been no action. There's been no discussion about it. I think it just, beyond wrestling media, I don't think it was really covered all that much.
There were no chants at WrestleMania, as John Oliver requested. There are no signs.
Something I did find pretty interesting coming out of this was that they stated that one of their key areas of investment in 2019 is using more fan data. Now it's something I believe they've been doing off and on through surveys, but how do you expect, Brandon, this to continue in a bigger scale?
Can you say that again? You guys cut off for a second
sorry.
there.
Just the idea of using fan data as one of their key areas of investment for 2019.
Did they talk about that at all here? I've heard a little bit about that, but I didn't see anything about
this
that
was listed in the release today in their kind of forward-looking statements. They listed their key areas of investment, and one of them they listed was using fan data to improve their business performance, essentially.
Sure. Well, I hope they do. I know they had in their last investor presentation in February, they were still using on one of the slides the old 2015 broadband homes, which is sort of in the context of talking about how many homes could potentially become network subscribers. So yeah, they've done a number of surveys over the years too, and then that could be related to the next iteration of the W Network that's supposed to come out sometime this year, where it looks like they're going to do a premium tier for the W Network. So I know they're always looking to see what kind of options they can offer as part of that.
Before we wrap up here, Brandon, it seemed like we absolutely don't want to talk about these topics were Saudi Arabia and the UK and India deals, which I think were very top of mind for some of the investors that were on the call, particularly what their presence is going to be in Saudi Arabia and what they can expect as they want to hit this $1 billion in revenue this year and hit these markers that they've set forward. But I mean, it was very clear they did not want to talk about any of this stuff.
No, they didn't want to talk about Saudi Arabia. They didn't want to talk about the UK TV deal that's about 4 months overdue now. The India TV deal is supposed to be done and announced by the end of June, I think. So they're not ready to talk about any of those things. I saw one analyst come out and say that I think it's going to be mostly flat on the UK TV deal, and maybe like a 5x increase on the India TV deal, which would put it above the UK TV deal. But yeah, Saudi Arabia, I've heard rumors that is this the latest that there's a June date possibly. I know there's originally going to be like a May 3rd.
Yeah,
it looks like that's not happening.
That's what I've heard is early June. And then when we saw that court filing that they do have a date listed for November 1st. So in theory, they'd be doing 2, but yeah, still no announcement of this June show.
Right. And then the analysts were sort of prying and trying to get some idea of how are you going to make these profit projections that you're predicting? Will you tell us whether or not there's going to be a Saudi event, which are apparently worth tens of millions of dollars? They're going to tell us where those events are, and George Barrios would not budge. And I don't know why. Maybe they just don't want to create more Saudi Arabia news. I don't know.
As of the time of this recording, the stock is at a 13.03% decrease. Do you expect it to rebound in the forthcoming days? And in particular, I'm curious about what the Q2 earnings report will be. Do you think these trends will continue?
I think they will. I don't buy it that there's all this talent is out, and that's why the metrics are down. I think they're just exhausting people with, I don't know, stars that they can't believe in and stuff that's inconsistent. And I think the absence over a long period of time, since 2015 or 16, the absence of John Cena from house shows is a big reason why attendance has gone down. The absence of Roman Reigns, and I guess he just started working house shows recently again. But I never noticed that Roman Reigns, in the studies that I've done, made a significant positive effect on house show attendance. So I don't know. I think this is a company that's it's really uh, burning out its time on, like, how long can you wait before you create more new stars, and until they fix that, I don't know that any of these metrics are going to fix themselves. But at the same time, they've got so much TV money that they can kind of just do what they want, as long as, I don't know, the viewership is high enough for Fox and NBC Universal to continue to give them the hundreds of millions of dollars that they give them.
Brandon, as we say goodbye to you, where can people read more of your work that you're going to be doing on this report, and just to follow you in general as well?
I will probably be doing a podcast on this for Wrestlenomics, maybe this weekend. You can check that out through the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, or you just search Wrestlenomics in your podcast app, and it should come up just about on any app. You can follow me on Twitter at Brandon Thurston. You can follow me on Instagram at Farmer_Thurston. And I wrestled last night for Independent Wrestling. That's on IWTV.com.
Awesome. The busiest man in professional wrestling. Brandon, thanks so much for joining us. It's always great when we get to dive into all these numbers with you and make sense of them.
For sure. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Thank you, Brandon.
Please get some sleep. Well deserved.
I'll try.
All right.
See you,
that was Brandon Howard, everybody. So go follow all of his fine work. One of the best analysts out there, and a professional wrestler to boot.
Yeah, at Brandon Thurston, at Wrestlenomics. Great job all around. A lot of chatter from the chat room from everybody that's there. So if you guys want to be heard, you can search for us on Skype and call in. Just look for Post Wrestling, or via phone 1-732-800-4423. Long distance charges may apply if you're using a landline, but they're open right now. So looking to talk to all of you.
Yes. Just some other notes from the quarterly report. So for the quarter, they lost just under $8.4 million, and their revenue was down. Last year, they brought in $721,000 in revenue. This year, $182,448,000. So revenue down slightly, but a loss on the quarter as well. That they, certain areas were down. Live events were definitely down. Consumer products were down. There's a number of different areas you can look at that were down, and I think that there's
this solution, supposed solution that they had to, Vince was talking about, to revamp live events.
Nothing has happened in that sense. Like, there has not been any reimagining of live events. They're presenting them the same way as they always have. And listen to this call, like, it very much seemed that, there's ebbs and flows, and sometimes, like, they admitted, like, our television viewership, we are down compared to, they're much further down than what the USA Network is as a whole. The top 25 cable networks are. And an interesting stat that's buried in there, they mention, is the fact that, when we talk about how many people are getting rid of cable and who is no longer watching television. Last year, the USA Network, this quarter last year, they were 91 million homes. This year, they're 90 million homes. So that's the decrease you're looking at. So it's Raw is down significantly more than the number of cable homes that USA Network is no longer in. So I take this, and I can see a lot of, popularity trends. And I think that there is this belief that it really doesn't matter once these TV deals take effect, because the profits are going to be so enormous that it offsets any of these declines, which they're not wrong in that sense. But I think as well, you don't want to just, when popularity is down, it's something you want to take notice of, and you want to curb that.
It seems to be a bigger problem for 5 years from this point, or even with the Fox deal.
With Fox, it's going to be immediate. I mean, you want to be able to grow your audience on Friday nights and not be maintaining or just minimalizing the declines.
We've got a caller. What's up?
Hey guys, Paul from New Jersey here.
Hey Paul, how you doing?
Hey, good. That Brandon, that was excellent. I feel like I learned a lot. But yeah, I wanted to, when it comes to not building new stars, and I feel like Vince McMahon saying that we're getting writers and revamping is kind of an admission that you guys aren't doing the best you can. But I kind of recalled when you guys would talk about ratings in the sense of like, I would look at a rating from a show where Brock Lesnar's not on the show, and then when Brock Lesnar is advertised on the show, and I didn't really see the rating move that much. So yeah, I think it's more that they have to create superstars. I don't think superstars being out could make much of a difference. What do you guys think about that?
No, I like Brock Lesnar just showing up for an appearance is not an enormous difference maker. The biggest mover we've seen of late was when Roman Reigns returned. I mean, there was an enormous interest when he came back and made the announcement on the show, and we saw that the following week as well, but that trailed off as WrestleMania season built up. But I mean, it's difficult in the sense to really break down because we don't get the quarter hour breakdowns anymore. So it's hard to go hour by hour and assess. I mean, who is gaining, who is losing, because those aren't public anymore. But you can look at week to week and hour to hour and see at least those trends. You can see certain patterns and what is making a difference. And I think ultimately I'm answering my own question. I don't think there's a difference maker on the show at the moment.
Like if seeing the numbers like on the go home and the post WrestleMania shows pretty much be stagnant, nothing really tells me that, outside of I think a big monumental moment like Roman Reigns announcing his return from cancer on occasion, I just don't see what needle movers there really could be.
Yeah, I think more to your point, and what was interesting in my life is my family does not care about professional wrestling in the least. They don't like it, but that real life side of this man who was battling cancer and came back, they actually said, "Hey, you want to come watch Raw with us?" And I was like, "What did you just say to me?" Like, so I think maybe getting those storylines better and playing off those situations. But not to take up too much of your guys' time before I go. I just wanted to say, like, with the whole Viking Raiders and the whole name thing, I just feel so bad for the both of those guys because, like, I watched that match last night on NXT against the Street Profits. And man, that was great. Like, I bit so hard on there was a false finish right at the beginning, and it was so good. And it's just when I'm looking at the wrestling community, all they're talking about is a name, and I feel really bad for those guys because I feel like this whole thing is just done such a disservice for the talent.
I mean, the naming thing, it's not been a glowing sign of great promotion for the call-ups. I think ultimately it's going to come down to how this team is handled. I don't think it's been the brush of death, this naming change. Right. So I think ultimately we'll look back in a number of months. And if these guys get over, I think the naming thing will just be something that people laugh at and they move on from. I think that's when you'll ultimately see a solution or an answer regarding how the call-up is assessed.
They're certainly talented enough, and I think if the push is strong, then we can all kind of forget about this. They could be the Viking Raiders, Viking Warriors, whatever they want to be, and I think they'll still be over. But if the idea is to try to translate like what value these guys had from NXT, where they were treated as, and continue to be, if you just watch NXT, to be treated as a serious, intimidating threat, it definitely curbs them. I'm even more concerned though about just promoting them as heels right now, rather than just directly lifting them from their babyface selves in NXT, which I thought worked really well.
Yeah, I certainly agree. I hope a year from now we can just look at this as them being really over at that time, and just look at this as something back in wrestling history that we can all laugh at. But thank you so much for taking my call.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Just getting back here, Wai, you mentioned what they had listed as their key areas of investment. So strengthen the talent base, delivering more localized content. The next iteration of the WWE network that they've just stated will be later this year, and that's in partnership with Endeavor Streaming and a company called Massive. And then leveraging fan data to improve business performance.
Right.
And
via surveys and things
well,
like
and also, I mean, by being on the WWE network, they have access to a lot of data now that is specific to you and how that's used. There are some that are very sensitive to that information being out there, and the WWE sees a great value in it, which it is. But it's also, I think today in 2019, consumers have a concern of how is that data being handled, and that's Facebook is going through that. Right now,
I suppose even outside of data mining, like do they mean that they are more going to make a bigger effort to listen to the audience's wants? So if, for instance, the audience does not like the name of a certain tag team, they are more willing now to make a change like that?
I mean, for all the negativity about the name, they changed the name. So that tells you something.
Yeah, we'll see.
They opted to drop the name.
Caller, what's up?
It's MJ. What's up, guys?
MJ, yes, you've been wanting to talk for quite a while, so I'm glad you called. So what are your thoughts on everything?
One of my favorite days of the year. I love earnings day. I love when you guys talk to Brandon from Wrestlenomics. It tickles my interest in the industry. So they don't need data to understand that they should stop oversaturating their audience. An audience doesn't need to sit through 7 hours of WrestleMania and then go to live events and 5 hours of television a week. It's just oversaturation. I think if we saw them trim that back, I think the interest is still there. It's just how much of people's time are you expecting to get? And they've oversaturated it.
Well, I think, and it's also looking at where do we want to gain those hours from people? Like if we're seeing a drop in live attendance and we can correlate that these people are watching the hours on the network more than ever before. I'll try and find it here, but they actually put out during WrestleMania week, 23.2 million hours were consumed on the WWE network WrestleMania week. So if they believe that's a worthy trade-off, that maybe live events and television numbers go down, but we're pumping up viewership, I mean, maybe they believe that's a worthwhile pivot for them. I would be concerned about that when so much is wrapped up in your television deals that to me would be my ultimate destination, that I would want people tuning in and keeping my numbers high enough. But they are also, even with all these declines, still among the most watched programming on cable. So that's kind of the balancing act they play.
And I'm a little bullish on the company. I think the sell-off today was a couple of factors. Obviously, you have the poor report, the first sign of weakness. I think you have a lot of the kind of general public sell because they were at all-time highs, and I think everyone kind of rode the momentum up to the $100 level.
Mm-hmm.
Then you also have people taking off gains. When you're at that kind of level and where the market is at all-time highs, you're going to have people take gains off. So, there's a lot of factors that drive the stock price down. To your point about the ratings, like when they move to Fox, I think that'll be a big help because you're not going to ask people to watch 3 hours Monday and turn around and watch 2 hours Tuesday, or even when you have the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. By Tuesday, who can stand that anymore? So, I think Friday will help. I want to make a few more points real quick. It's funny about them referring to talent injury or talent being not available off the road, the 15 or so names that were not there. Vince should have just come out and said it. It's John Cena and Roman Reigns. They were not around for Q1 for obvious reasons. That was the big, to me, that's the highlight right there. And that's a problem going forward if they can't make stars. At the same time, I'm not going to bet against Vince because we thought that'd be a problem after Austin and after Rock and after Cena. So, they have a history that I'm going to believe in. And then the last thing is
just to get to that point. I mean, at the same time, NJ, like now they kind of have to put their money where their mouth is because Roman is back. Is it going to effectively change ratings for a SmackDown?
Well, from a money standpoint, just look at Q2, WrestleMania, Saudi Arabia. Those are big money items. They're going to have such a better report in Q2. And that's what I think people are losing sight of, is that the comparison for Q1 versus Q2. Then you get to Q4 at the end of the year when the Fox money hits. This company is going to start to show strength again. So the panic today on the stock, like I said, I think it's a couple of factors. I don't think there's a panic for the company. And I think that they were very much of that mindset on the call today, and they kind of just wanted to sweep this quarter under the rug. We'll see what the ratings look like, but I think from a financial standpoint, they'll be fine in the next few quarters.
Oh, financially, I mean, these television contracts, again, it's insulated them from having to micromanage these other areas, and it can largely be their scoreboard that they point to if ever they go through a quarter like this again. Like that will offset any losses. So that's going to be their ultimate go-to is once those television deals take effect. And for 5 years, it's going to be very hard for them to lose money in these quarters.
Yeah, and as fans, we will analyze storylines. We will analyze whether they build stars, whether they should be or should not be going to Saudi Arabia. At the end of the day, this is a corporation. They are running a corporation. They have investors to answer to. They obviously have shareholders that are looking at this stuff. And I think we as fans sometimes get too caught up in the week-to-week analyzing of the product, where we're looking at a television show and they're looking at a corporate environment. The last thing I wanted to mention was it is mind-blowing to me that not a single analyst brought up competition And I'm not even talking about AEW. I saw something that Pro Wrestling Tees has now paid out $5 million in royalties, which means they're doing in excess of $6-7 million in sales. That has eaten into their merchandise business in a way that I think is not reported on and really meaningful, really material. When you look at Bullet Club shirts for the last year and a half, 2 years being the most popularly worn shirt at a wrestling event, at a WWE show, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that they are losing business and losing ground there. And how nobody brought that up today was kind of mind-blowing to me, because it's obvious.
Well, I think that a lot of these all circle back to, again, star creation. That I think that if you had a hot character, the merchandise would follow. And I think with Pro Wrestling Tees, I mean, yes, there are stars that are attached to Pro Wrestling Tees, to the wrestling audience. And I think many fans are aware of the model that wrestlers at Pro Wrestling Tees are going to see a lot more of. If I spend $30 on a t-shirt, I know that performer is going to see more of that than if I buy a WWE t-shirt as well.
The shirts are also just better, like, for the most part, like,
of course
we've seen. But yes.
I think they play the brand equity that WWE carries today, outranks any kind of star power. I think what you mentioned in terms of, we know how the model works with Pro Wrestling Tees. When we buy a Kenny Omega shirt, he's getting a portion of that revenue. I think that WWE needs to evaluate who is spending the money on wrestling and how do we get their dollars to us, opposed to thinking about the broader, this is what our brand is and stars don't matter, and that kind of thinking, which has gotten them very far, but it does hit a ceiling at some point, especially when you have really viable outlets like a Pro Wrestling Tees, or in the future another television show on a major network. That's going to present real challenges to them in 2020 and beyond.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for the call, MJ.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
Hope you guys are well. Talk soon.
Always love talking to MJ. Very, very, very smart person. Anyone else who wants to chime in and give us a call? Phone lines are open right now. So look for the phone number just in the chat description, or, here we go. Hansi, are you there?
What's going on, man?
Hey, Hansi, what's going on? What's on your mind?
I'm good. I just wanted to ask you guys. Do you guys think that there will be any follow up with John Oliver? Because like there's people online who are already like kind of like tagging him after this whole Luke Harper debacle, and I was wondering like. I kind of tuned in late, so I don't know if you guys gave your thoughts on the Luke Harper thing.
No, we can go over it now.
Like, what?
We haven't talked about it, Hansi, but you share your thoughts on it first.
Well, listen, I mean, you're going to get conflicting thoughts like, okay, well, maybe these guys shouldn't have signed these kind of contracts, right? And I get that point, but I mean, I just see a lot of people just justifying this gangster type of mentality that WWE has. And I don't know, maybe because the last couple of years, I kind of used to agree. Like I used to like always blindly support the system, because I'm like, well, if the system is doing so much evil, why are there people still kind of co-signing it? And then when you find out more about like the capitalist type of world, right? Like and these people have no leverage. You kind of start siding with people who are kind of being oppressed in a way. So we're like Sasha Banks and Luke Harper, for example. I'm just saying, if like these people don't want to stay in your company, like then what's the point of even keeping them? Like I understand like someone might grab them up, but I'm just saying, like, do you really want unhappy employees who feel miserable and feel like they're prisoners in your own company, or just why can't you just let them go? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the story on Luke Harper, and Dave Meltzer reported on this in the Observer this week, that he's reporting that the WWE is not granting Harper his release this after he announced publicly he requested it. And on top of that, because of his recovery from his wrist surgery, that they're tacking on 6 months to his contract on top of that. So listen, I have no issue if a company is not willing to release a performer earlier. I mean, you sign a contract and that goes both ways. So I believe that, if they feel you can request a release, but I can also decline that if I so choose, because we signed a contract to this day. Now, the frozen part of the contract, that to me, listen, I have not read a WWE contract that has that language in it. So I think that would be certainly something you raise your eyebrows at it. How you have an injury and that suddenly becomes time owed at the end of a contract. And that becomes really a very gray area legally for a performer. And I think that that's something it's gone unchallenged until this point by performers. And I think obviously the onus is on them to fight that if they believe it's unjust. But I don't feel that is fair. That if someone gets injured, particularly in a physical industry like the WWE is, that then there's time owed at the end of a contract.
The problem is if you sign the contract, then you've agreed to it, and I think it's more of a case for future contracts, whether or not there are alternatives out there from other companies that might say that we can take this out, and will the WWE react to that? But for the time being, I mean, it seems like it's kind of cut and dry, like what they're allowed to do.
I hear you. Before I go, I just want your thoughts quickly with this Kevin Owens heel turn. You guys think that Kofi's run is gonna be like? I always anticipated. Like, I'm glad he got the moment. But I anticipate that his run will be over. I assume. But would you guys? What would you guys do if Kevin Owens wins the title? Would you guys rather Roman Reigns kind of become the hero and get it from Kevin Owens, or do you think it would be a better story if like Big E returns and he kind of fights for Kofi's honor, and he kind of goes into the world title program where now you made two new day guys in 1 year basically?
I think it's way too soon to take the belt off of Kofi, especially on a first defense. Even if your idea was to put it onto Big E, I think the audience still wants to see a longer reign for Kofi Kingston. And we're at the point now where we can, I think the audience is smart enough to know when a transitional championship reign is happening. And if Big E were to just pick up, or especially if it was Roman Reigns just picking up off of Kofi Kingston's reign, I mean, what a surefire way to get Roman Reigns booed if you go for a 1 month reign for Kofi Kingston to a 1 month reign from Kevin Owens to an ultimately a reign from Roman Reigns. So I would avoid all that. I would have Kofi beat Kevin Owens, and then have him at least hold it all the way until SummerSlam, and then maybe move on to your next guys.
I actually think Nate Milton had an awesome idea that Big E wins Money in the Bank, and then Kofi is the champion, and it's just lingering. What's this guy going to do with this briefcase?
That would be very interesting. Yeah,
I think that'd be something intriguing. But I'm with you.
Not healthy though.
I mean, he's not out for a long time though.
Will he be at Money in the Bank, you think?
That might be pushing it to be back that quick. I think if healthy, I think that's a cool option.
All right, well, guys, thanks for answering my question, and it's nice. I sorry I haven't talked to you guys in a couple of weeks, but it's nice to hear you guys live again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Likewise, Hansi. Always good to hear
our week is not complete unless we check in with Hansi.
Take it easy, guys.
All right, thanks a lot. We're going to go over some of the shows that are going on this weekend, but if we get calls, we will interrupt to go into them. I believe I tweeted out that we were going to preview Wrestling Dontaku, and then I realized Wrestling Dontaku is next weekend. So next week's show, we'll go through the Dontaku cards. But the phone lines continue to ring. Who is there? Who's on the line?
Okay, what's up, man?
Oh my!
I'm ready. I'm ready for this guy.
I know you have plenty of thoughts on the quarter one financial results, Brandon.
Oh, it's the Firefly Funhouse with Brandon.
I'm glad I took my econ class today, right?
What's up?
Oh man, not much, man. You guys looking dapper today, man.
Oh yeah, you can. What are you talking about? Well, I mean, we both have the collars. I know. Way's got the nice slick on top there.
I know, man. Way looks like he's going to the vote for it today in the Democratic caucus in Canada with that fade.
I don't think we have those.
No, he's getting prepared for Endgame. He's gonna wear a suit tomorrow. I think, like Rusev.
I'm going tomorrow also. Man, I can't wait. Stay away from Kobe Covington's speed though, man. He's gonna expose what's it called? Spoiler alert.
Waze blocked him, so I don't think
banned from
Colby
Twitter.
Covington will get through. But yeah, that tweet is absolutely coming tonight. So anyone listening to this that follows Colby Covington, be forewarned. I know it's coming tonight.
He's really developed quite the gimmick for himself. Like anytime a big Marvel movie or Star Wars movie comes out, everybody's just thinking about that guy.
Oh, too bad he couldn't work out in TNA.
No. Hey, what are you watching on Saturday night? Are you watching UFC and Bellator? Are you picking one over the other, or are you watching the Crockett Cup?
Oh, dude, I'm so stoked for that Crockett Cup. You have no idea. It reminds me of like the Battle Bowl back in the day with the weird tag teams, stuff like that.
I think it'll be a fun show on Saturday. I'm looking forward to watching that. I don't know if I'll be watching it live Saturday night or the next day, but I am going to try the monumental task of watching UFC, Bellator, and Crockett Cup on Saturday.
Wow,
we're going to see how that goes for me.
We'll be talking about
on the fight on that Bellator card too.
Bellator's got some fun fights on there, and I think it's a really like under the radar UFC card as well on Saturday in Sunrise, Florida. I mean, you have Yoel Romero, Jack Hermanson, whatever. It's kind of a replacement main event with Yoel out, but man, you go through this: Alex Oliveira, Mike Perry, John Lineker, and Corey Sandhagen is a really good fight. Andre Arlovsky is on the prelims. Carlos Esparza is on the prelims. Jim Miller is on the prelims. Dude, if you live we don't necessarily have this problem in Canada, but for you, Brandon, the prelims are on ESPN2. Then for the other prelims, you have to go to ESPN. And then the main card is on ESPN Plus. You have to go to 3 different platforms to watch 12 fights on Saturday. That's insanity.
And if you got the app, you can watch them all.
What's that? You can watch it all on the app?
Yeah. You could, through your local cable provider, you could stream it through the app.
Oh, okay. I mean, so you can stay on one outlet and watch them all 3. You don't have to like switch.
Different, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Gotcha.
What? TSN doesn't do that?
No, TSN does. Like I'm saying, in Canada, we don't really have to deal with this because TSN airs everything. But I'm just looking at this. It's like one's on ESPN Plus, one's on ESPN, and then the other's on ESPN2.
What are they showing on TSN 6?
We only go up to TSN 5 here. We don't have the Ocho up here.
And don't forget the crown jewel. Come on, Raptors 6, game 1.
That's probably what more people are paying attention to in Toronto. I'm figuring out how I'm going to watch UFC and Bellator together with a Crockett Cup mixed in there.
And you also got Impact on Sunday.
Impact is on Sunday as well.
And with you and Nate Milton's review. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's your weekend is all set, Brandon.
Oh man. What if Andre Borgnani suits up on Saturday and gets like 2 points? Would you be excited for that?
No.
I don't even know what sport you guys are talking about at this point.
If the Raptors make the finals, I might tune in. Maybe.
Okay. One question real quick and I'll get out of here. Wait, okay. Well, are you disappointed that Enzo didn't get on the Best of the Super Juniors?
That Enzo didn't get into the Best of the Super Juniors. There'd be a morbid curiosity to that.
Yeah, there would be.
Hey, why are you saying definitively? I mean, we don't know who X is yet.
That's right.
That's true, man. But
all these El Phantasmo rumors. I mean, maybe that's Ring of Honor and New Japan are going to work together, and Enzo's going to show up.
I want to hear him rap about all the participants in the Best of the Super Juniors. All right.
We think it's over in that tournament, by the way.
Who wins the tournament?
Yes.
I'm going to go with Shingo.
Wow. That's a bold pick.
Yeah, well, that's me. I'm being bold.
You're
bold and underlined.
Right,
okay, thanks, Brandon.
I love you guys.
Likewise. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I thought we did a pretty good job keeping up with him. He's the best.
He is great. Yes.
Let's chat about some of these shows. The Crockett. What are you going to try and watch this weekend?
I'm going to watch the Crockett Cup. We'll be talking about that on the double shot. I think I'm going to try to catch a bit of Impact, depending. I'll be listening to the review first and seeing what's worth catching up on.
I was on the fence about going to it, but it's just too tough with doing a show right afterwards, so I'm not going to go. But I think it's going to be a really good show on Sunday.
It looks like it.
Yeah,
it looks
I'm
like a
looking.
pretty
I'm
hot
looking
card.
forward to both shows.
Before we get to our next call, Jake, please stay on the line. Do you want to go through perhaps some of the
Impact.
matches?
They've only announced 5 matches, so I imagine there's going to be more. But it's headlined by Johnny Impact and Brian Cage, with Lance Storm as the special referee for the Impact title. If you go to last week's Impact, the first 3 minutes, it's a video package going through the whole feud and going back to January at Homecoming, and even incorporating the fact that Johnny Bravo, who is now turned heel, the referee, he was involved in all of the matches that you might not have realized at the time. They did a really good job of summarizing this feud. The Lucha Brothers, Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. defending the tag titles against LAX in a Full Metal Mayhem match. That should be outstanding. Tessa Blanchard versus Gail Kim. That should be very good. Rich Swann defending the X Division title against Sami Callihan, and Taya Valkyrie defending the Knockouts title against Jordan Grace. Like, I think that's 5 solid matches, and whatever they add to it.
My favorite part is that it's 5 matches.
There will be more, I'm sure.
Well, there will be more, but at least I'm hoping it's not that much more than 5. But they're 5. I mean, very much like a takeover. They're 5 matches that I think I actually care about seeing.
Do you know who their breakout star this year is going to be? Is Josh Alexander. He's now there full time. He's teaming with Ethan Page. They had this great squash match on television. They're pairing them together as the North. I think the team is. I really enjoy the team together. Page can talk. Alexander is he's been a standout on the Ontario independent scene forever. So it's great to see he's now getting US dates and working with Impact. I think he could have a very big year. I'm sure he'll end up on the card in some form or fashion.
Yeah, all these TNA. I'm never gonna stop calling them TNA, everybody. But all these Impact shows, I don't watch the week to week, but I hear about shows like this, and they always look good. So to me, there are always chances for them to kind of break through to that next tier of talk. We'll see. Jake, what's up?
Hey, gentlemen. Good to hear from you again. I was going to call in about the Impact pay-per-view because it really looks like it's going to be a great card. Really, I don't watch the week-to-week as well, but I do watch bits and pieces on YouTube and on Twitch. Unfortunately, my cable provider doesn't have Pursuit, which is really unfortunate. I'm really looking forward to Gail Kim and Tessa Blanchard. I think that could be one hell of a match that will come up on Sunday.
Yeah, I think the match is going to be tremendous. I think Tessa Blanchard is fantastic. She's just a tremendous talent that they have. So
is this Gail's
return match?
Okay, yes. So she has not wrestled at all since
she is. She has not wrestled since whenever that retirement match was. She's also throwing out the pitch at the Blue Jays game on Friday.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Watching this product, it certainly has improved over the past year. It's unfortunate because I really wished they had this product when they were on Spike. Because I was a huge TNA fan back in the mid 2000s. You got Styles, Daniels, and Samoa Joe. That 3-way match at Unbreakable. That was the first time I saw TNA and became a huge fan of it. And it's just unfortunate because I hope people give this promotion a second chance because it really has improved with Don and Scott being back behind the scenes with this promotion. So
it's tough. It's a really aggressive fight now for people's time, and it's not really even an indictment against the show or the lineup that some people they fall out of it, and buying it on pay-per-view, it's a big ask for people. It's such a crowded market.
We're already talking about oversaturation with just the WWE itself, and now you have so many other alternatives that have popped up in the wake of since the last time TNA was that big second number 2 relevant company. It's that much of a tougher fight to get people's attention.
Yeah, but I mean, if you are watching it, I think it's a pretty good product. I enjoy the TV most weeks, and their pay-per-views are generally very good, and I think this is going to be a really strong one on Sunday.
Which kind of leads me to my next question. Finally, just before I go, AEW has the biggest has their big opportunity to probably become the number 2. So I just want to put you guys on the spot because this could be a loaded question right here. What do you think? Appreciate it. What do you think AEW can learn from TNA so they won't make the same mistakes that Impact did? And I know it's a loaded question, but there's a lot of them. So I'll just listen to you guys, and I'll just hang up from here.
Seems like they're already taking a lot of lessons, not just from TNA, but also from WCW. Tony Khan did an interview with Chris Van Fleet recently, where he talked about how much of what he felt like was a problem with WCW was that they took on too much talent. And, we've kind of known all these, we know our history lesson with regards to Turner and WCW, but just not hiring too many people, only having so much TV time that they can devote to their quote unquote stars that they already have quite a few of anyway. So it seems like they're being pretty, calm about hiring all these, ex WWE people. In fact, they're going kind of the other route and more so filling out their undercard with unknown talent.
I think that's a great way to go. And I would say if you are going to be signing a talent that leaves WWE, there has to be a clear idea of, you can't just take this performer and insert them into your program as that WWE character. And that's what TNA did over and over and over again with your Ken Anderson. Like, you can run down the list of guys where they took someone that they believed, this guy's a star. He was in WWE, so we're just going to put him here. Whereas if you look
in the top mix too, not even just in an entry role.
Yeah, it just, like, you branded yourselves as, just, we'll take everybody that has any kind of name recognition from WWE. And, I look at the examples of Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. When WCW was able to bring them back, they didn't bring them back to be their WWF characters. Like, in a way, they were trying to be the people that played those characters, but presenting them in a totally different light, as under their real names and having a very distinct difference to them, as opposed to just bringing in these two guys that are their WWF characters.
Certainly having like the freshness of like a heel Hulk Hogan, really helped that as well. But then they would go on to kind of make some of those same mistakes, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I'll just leave this one tip.
Yeah.
Don't hire Vince Russo. We don't have to worry about that, but that's my one tip.
Well, he's not, seeing how he's not even allowed at StarCast. I don't think they're in much danger of doing that. But thanks for the call, Jake.
Thank you, Jake.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's quickly just run down the Crockett Cup. We did go over this last week, but it's headlined by Nick Aldis and Marty Scurll, which Wai and I just reviewed the 10 Pounds of Gold episode featuring the final episode leading into the pay-per-view. That's on the double shot this week. Willie Mack defending the national title against Colt Cabana, Allison Kay and Santana Garrett for the vacant women's title. Then you have the wild card tag team battle royal. The winner of that battle royal is the 8th seed in the Crockett Cup tournament, which features the Briscoe brothers against the Rock and Roll Express, Brody King and PCO against Yuji Nagata and Satoshi Kojima, Flip Gordon and Bandito against Guerrero Maya Jr. and Stuka Jr., and Crimson and Jack Stain against the wild card battle royal winners, to be followed by the semifinals and finals. So 11 matches in total listed for. And on commentary, you have Joe Galley, who did the anniversary show back in October, Jim Cornette, and Ian Riccaboni. So cool. I think the commentary will be solid on the show.
Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to it. So we'll see what they have to offer.
Yuji Nagata. When ROH put out the announcement, because I was kind of on the fence about going to this ROH card in Toronto, and then they announced Yuji Nagata in a singles match with Silas Young. And that was my decision maker. I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to go to this show. I need to see Yuji Nagata.
Yeah. He hasn't really made a tour.
I don't think, I know I've never seen him wrestle live. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's done any, because he was supposed to do the US dates earlier this year and then didn't end up getting to come over for them. Right?
I don't know.
The ones with that had the visa issues.
Oh, yes.
Because it was supposed to be him and Tomohiro Ishii on one of the shows.
Yes.
So I don't know if he's been over here since the WCW days. Like, maybe I'm just blanking on. I don't even think he was on like the Long Beach shows. Maybe he was on one of them. But anyway.
I don't recall.
Anyway.
But
first time in Canada.
So that was recently announced too. The War of the Worlds.
Yeah, War of the Worlds is starting. Not next week, but the following week. They're doing 4 shows starting in Buffalo, and then the second night is in Toronto.
Yeah, and as far as what the New Japan talent are that'll be coming, it'll be Kojima, Nagata, and
Goto's going to be on the shows. And beyond that, I don't even think they've announced any. For Toronto, they've got Matt Taven and PCO for the title. Jay Lethal against Kojima. 4 corner
with no Tanahashi announced yet or Naito.
Well, Tanahashi's hurt. But yeah, they haven't announced. Like, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a loaded New Japan roster for these shows.
Interesting.
So
okay. Anything else?
I think that's going to bring the show to a close.
John
because
is.
I've got to go out and watch a movie.
Well, John's got to sit in a theater for 3 hours and try to not talk to me for the next 24 hours.
This is going to be. It's going to be daunting to go through this tonight.
Yeah,
but
you're going with a group of how many people?
Oh, I don't know how big the actual group is. It started at some enormous number. I don't even know. It's more than 10 though, I believe.
Wow.
So
I want a full report on.
I've got an assigned seat,
Monday.
so that's good.
Yes, that's very important.
That's a must.
I can't imagine like lining up for something
I'm
only to
too
sit
old for that
for
stuff.
3 hours.
No. All right. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks for all the calls. It's always great when we hear from all of you. We do the show every Thursday live, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Next week on the show, we're scheduled to be joined by Conrad Thompson to chat about all that's going on with StarCast. And there'll probably be a million more things to talk about with StarCast by this time next week. So always great to catch up with Conrad and pin him down for a couple minutes to see what's happening in his very busy world.
Yeah. Some Tom McGee talk.
Yes, I'm sure we'll talk about Tom McGee with Conrad Thompson. So look forward to that. All the shows are up on the site at postwrestling.com. We just dropped the double shot and we reviewed the Killing of Bruiser Brody special on Dark Side of the Ring, 10 Pounds of Gold, Road to Double or Nothing, Being the Elite, MLW.
One last thing. I've been hearing of many people maybe having issues with their Patreon RSS feeds. I contacted Patreon about this. They insist that there's really no issue. So it seems to be an issue that not necessarily everybody's experiencing, but some of you are. And if you are one of those people affected by your feeds not updating, do simply go to patreon.com/pledges. And what you need to do is just go to edit, and you can have your pledge be the same amount. Just hit the edit button and then just kind of go through that process to refresh, and you should get a new email with your RSS feed. Failing all that, send me a message directly either on Twitter or on Patreon or wherever you can reach me, and I'll try to get you sorted.
All right. And we'll be back on Thursday for Café members with a review of Guardians of the Galaxy. So lots of shows coming up this week. We'll be up on Sunday with an Impact review, myself and Nate Milton, and Wai will bring us up to speed on Endgame on Monday.
And very quickly, WWE stock just closed for the day at 85.38, which is 13.35% decrease.
All right. There you have it. The latest on the WWE stock. Thanks again to Brandon Howard for joining us, and we will speak with you later this week.